Hey there, welcome to another episode of Growth Minded. I'm your host, Ed Hayes. For those of you watching on YouTube, you can see that we got a pretty big crowd today. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. And we're definitely packing this classroom. So just want to thank everyone here and everyone tuning in. So we got a good episode for you. What if I told you that four-year-olds who could hold off eating marshmallows for a few minutes, they were found to have better academic performance at school, better social lives, and they're better equipped to cope with important life problems when researchers tracked the original participants down a few years later in high school. That was pretty mind-blowing to me because, at 4 years old, I have no memory and I don't know exactly, anything that I was doing. And I have no recollection of any of the willpower that I had or had back then. So this is a profound finding, basically, that 4-year-olds who can hold off on eating marshmallows, who can delay some of that gratification. This is a profound finding indicating that willpower is a critical habit for individual and organizational success. So basically, without this habit, individuals risk setbacks with their academics, their social lives, physical health, and their finances. It really touches, all these spheres, if you call it, all the aspects in your life, willpower. Additionally, schools, employers, organizations, they risk setting up students and employees for failure if, these individuals aren't equipped with self-discipline to perform under high stress environments. And I don't know about you, but I've never had a class in self-discipline. It's been something I've had to, learn through trial and error on my own. So I'll discuss the benefits of willpower, the single most important keystone habit for individual success, according to Angela Duckworth, psychologist from UPenn and best-selling author of Grit. So I'll first outline, how building willpower sets you up for individual success. Next, how building willpower sets up an organization for success. And then finally, I'll share a practice that you can use from a practical standpoint, that you can start building up your own power, your own willpower, that you can, start to reap the benefits in your own personal lives. So with that being said, in terms of individual success, some of the benefits that come along with willpower, I've touched on a little bit already, but it includes academic success, success socially, being able to talk to people and build relationships, your physical and mental well-being, as well as your financial health as well. So let's get back more on that marshmallow experiment because, I'm getting pretty hungry. I might have to cut this episode short. All this talk is getting me riled up a little bit. But long story short, there's a 1960s study that basically tested 4-year-olds. So they're separated into two groups. One group would eat marshmallows right away, or if these 4-year-olds waited just a few minutes, they would have 2 marshmallows if they just held off. So they tracked the original participants. They tracked these original 4-year-olds down. I don't know how they did it back in the 60s, in the 70s. I have no idea. They tracked them down in high school and they asked about SAT scores, grades, the ability to maintain friendships, and their capacity to cope with important problems. So they found that 4-year-olds who could delay gratification the longest ended up with the best grades and with SAT scores 210 points higher than everyone else's. And that was just, from a young age, from being 4 years old. It kind of just goes to show how profound willpower is and the importance of self-discipline, which isn't very, promoted, and it's not really a sexy concept that our society talks about. So they were more popular. They did fewer drugs as well. So basically, these self-regulation skills gave them an advantage throughout their academic and social lives too. And more studies found that willpower had a positive effect on your physical, mental health, as well as your finances. And I'll get into that now. So there is another study done, this time regarding the correlation between willpower and your physical health. So basically, there is an exercise program that increased frequency and the intensity over a 2-month span. So imagine this program. In the first week, they ask you to run 3 miles. In the second week, they might ask you to run 4 miles. And then in week 3, they might ask you to run 5 miles. I don't know the exact variables or things like that in the exercise program, but basically that's the gist of it. Every week you get more intense and you do more frequent exercises. So after this study was completed, they found those participants in this program, after building up that willpower, they were one, in better physical shape. I'm sure everyone likes to look better and feel better. They smoke less cigarettes, they consume less alcohol, less caffeine, and less junk food. More hours were spent on homework, on hobbies, less time on TV, and people were reported to feel less depressed at the end of the exercise program as compared to the beginning of it. So there it kind of goes, again, touching kind of every aspect of your life. This case, your physical and your mental well-being. And then finally, in terms of individual success, setting you up financially. So there's another study done by researchers, because I'm sure this topic was very fascinating to folks, over the years, and it's something that's still gripping the attention of researchers and psychologists even to this day. So there's a study and a money management program created for 30 people. Basically, savings goals were created for each individual. People were denied luxuries like meals out or movie nights. They were denied that, so they kind of had to stay within some boundaries. And this required that people also jot down every purchase that they made throughout this time period of this money management program. So some of the findings after this program was completed, that not only was the main goal of financial success, finances improved over this program, but it also had the same ripple effect that we saw in the previous studies: less cigarettes, less alcohol, less caffeine, less junk food, more productivity at work and school and with your hobbies. So as I mentioned, like the strength of willpower that I found in some of these readings, and some of this reading is result of The Power of Habit. It's by Charles Duhigg. That's where I found a lot of this research. So the strength of your willpower, whether you're doing a physical workout or your money management program, or even just resisting a few marshmallows or things like that, it touches everything in your life, which I find very fascinating. So how does this impact your organization, your school, the things that you're affiliated with? So some of the benefits that organizations have found from training their employees on willpower and discipline is, not only do you have better employee discipline, they're able to regulate their emotions better. This translates to customer satisfaction, which is invaluable to have a returning customer. I think there is some quote on The Office. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but basically it's a lot more costly to go find another customer than it is to keep some of the existing customers that you have, which is why I think willpower and being able to regulate some of your emotions in some of these turbulent times is crucial. So one organization that basically has hit this out of the park is Starbucks. They've invested millions of dollars into willpower workshops for their employees, and it's a contributing factor for some of that high pep, they call it, high pep, high customer focus, some of that stuff that you expect each time that you order at Starbucks. So employees would receive about 50 hours per year on trainings and courses that taught them how to live, how to focus, and how to master some of those emotions when dealing with difficult customers and difficult conversations. So there's an example employee called Travis Leach. He was raised by alcoholic parents who struggled with drug use. So this Starbucks willpower training helped him regulate his emotions, which wasn't something that he knew with that upbringing, and it was able to help him muster some of that self-discipline in and out of work. So Travis now manages 2 stores. He has a salary with Starbucks and he has a 401k set up with the company. And regarding Starbucks and this willpower workshop that they put together, he says, Starbucks is the most important thing that has ever happened to me. I owe everything to this company. And a lot of that may be attributed to some of the investments that they've made into their employee discipline. And this has ripple effects on their finances, on their customer satisfaction, and on their employee well-being as well. So switching gears a little bit, so I'm speaking a lot about willpower and how it can set you up for success, how it can set up your organization for success when they invest that time into you. But what if your organization isn't spending that time and that training and that dedication to you? It may not be investing 50 hours a year on you. What are some practical things that you can do to start reaping the benefits of better willpower? I'm going to share that technique with you now. It's called Pomodoro Technique. And, basically this technique is basically setting 20 minutes or, a period of time on a clock, on a timer, and just focusing on the task at hand. And then the 20 minutes, the 25-minute interval is over. You take a break. You're able to kind of use that other side of your brain to process that information, to come up with creative solutions and things like that. So it's called the Pomodoro Technique, and it's something that I started using when I was transitioning from college to work life. I had to learn how to build my own willpower, as it wasn't something that was taught to me either in a classroom. So before my first job, I was spending about 3 hours, 4 hours per day on my phone. I was, the best fantasy football player. My friends probably don't agree. I was pretty good though. I was hitting it out of the park. So I was spending a lot of time on that, and other things like that, social media. Basically stuff that I would say was not developing me or setting me up for success. So like I said, work was 40 hours a week and school was another 10 to 15 hours a week. And don't get me wrong, I definitely do those things if you want to, if you have that time for it. But back then, those a few years ago, I didn't have that time. So I said, like, work was 40 hours, school was 10 to 15 on the weekend. So I had to get better at time management, or I would risk falling behind either at work or with school. So I started using this Pomodoro technique, basically 20-minute intervals of focus to help me concentrate during the week at work or at school, and then the weekends too if I needed. So as a result, I've been able to reduce my screen time by about 3 hours to an hour and a half per day, and I found that extra time to be able to grow socially, with my physical health, my mental health, my finances, and then my career. I really think this willpower strategy, this technique, it really encompasses every aspect of your life, which is why I feel so passionate, and you might hear some of that passion oozing over the microphone. But yeah, I really think it affects every aspect of your life. So if you're struggling with willpower or time management, I'd suggest you check out my podcast. I have an earlier episode that explores more on the Pomodoro technique. I kind of outline 3 different techniques and strategies that you can use to boost your grit and set you up for success in those different aspects of your life. So basically, to wrap this up, you have the power to improve your willpower. You have the power to improve your grit, and this will set you up for success individually and for your organization, for your career as well. As I mentioned, 4-year-olds are proving that willpower from a young age can really set you up for success. So I guess the next time someone offers you a few marshmallows or some warm cookies, think twice, because it may have a greater impact on your life than you know. So this was Growth Minded. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. For those of you here in attendance in this classroom setting, and then for those of you listening in, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys listening and joining and leaving your comments. So feel free to reach out if you have any follow-ups, any questions on this episode. Feel free to subscribe on YouTube, and look forward to the next episode. Thanks. Have a good one.